What's up, guys? This is a very impromptu last minute ZCT. First time that Matt and I are doing this virtually through Zoom. Hopefully, this works out and the quality's not terrible. But yeah, the reason we're doing this is because the GR Corolla, the new Toyota hot hatch that everyone's been clamoring for, got leaked. Now, I know the actual reveal is actually tonight, the official Toyota press release, in just a couple of hours, but I thought it would be a great time to just talk about the information that's already been leaked. It's already been out there. And I think based on this info, I would say I'm like 70 to 80% confident that we're already going to know what this car is going to be about in terms of specs and everything and the way it looks, right? The pictures, the specs, they've all been leaked on the Toyota website. Someone was clever enough to pull some photos from the site before Toyota took them down. And yeah, let me share my screen and we'll just go through this. I'm so excited for this car.
Yeah, so given that the recent numbers are coming out, I'm sure you're going to share them here shortly. But yeah, like just going through it, 1.6 liter turbocharged engine with 300 horsepower and 273 foot-pounds of torque. That in itself is already like, okay, that's great because it was speculated to be around the 270 range.
Yeah.
But that being in the 300 range kind of already puts it like at that CTR type of level. Whereas before, with knocking down another 25 horsepower in the 270 range, that was gonna, that was a little underwhelming. So I hope of all the numbers, that one is obviously the most true. I can get by with the looks, looks being aside, but the specs, if that number holds true, I think that will be pretty critical.
Yeah, and it's not just the horsepower number, right? So there's a few things going on here that I think are worth calling out. First of all,
Sure.
the engine is going to be, and we already sort of knew this ahead of time, but the engine is going to be the same 1.6 liter turbo inline three cylinder that's found in the GR Yaris. Obviously, we don't get that car here in the US, but that car has gotten rave reviews
Hmm.
overseas. And that engine was known when it came out as the highest horsepower production three cylinder in the world, right? And that was at 257 horsepower and 266 foot pounds of torque. So that was the world record. Now Toyota's breaking their own world record by another 43 horsepower.
Yeah, they're
But
like all the reserves now they're cranking it up, and then now this is the
this is the
max.
real deal. And here's the other interesting thing, and this is my own speculation, so take this with a grain of salt. If you look at that horsepower number, 300 horsepower, right? That's
Hmm.
43 more than the GR Yaris. The torque number of 273 foot-pounds, that's only like 7 foot-pounds more than the GR Yaris. So what that could potentially signal is that this engine might be a little bit more top end focused, because generally when you tune a turbocharged engine for torque, for peak torque, it's going to have a really strong mid-range, but it usually dies off a little bit near the red line.
Sure,
But the GR
sure.
Yaris revs to 7,200, so I'm fingers crossed, hoping this revs even higher. And that's already a pretty high red line, right? 7,200, and it makes this 300 horsepower supposedly at 6,500 RPM. So this
Okay.
is not going to be like your standard, run-of-the-mill turbocharged four-cylinder engine that you find in most hot hatches, at least most hot hatches from the last decade, where it's like tons of mid-range torque. So where if you're like test driving in a dealership, it feels fast, but
Right,
then
right,
on a
right.
track, you're like, wow, this engine runs out of breath at the top end. So that's, I thought, one thing that I found very interesting, and hopefully I'm right
Oh,
about this.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So what else is here and is exciting in these leaks?
Yeah, so six-speed intelligent manual transmission. I mean, I don't know exactly what this intelligent part entails, but I do know that it is supposed to offer automatic rev matching. Maybe that's
Yeah,
what that has
that's
to
what
do
I was
with.
gonna guess as well.
And I think some other Toyota manuals have this feature where the ECU will smooth out the torque curve of the engine when you're shifting to make
Okay.
shifts smoother. Now, what that could potentially mean to me is like or rev hang. Of
Right,
course,
like in the
in the
BRZ and the
BRZ. So we don't want to
FRS.
see that, but I mean, hopefully I'm hoping they get this right and make it just a really engaging transmission.
Right,
Another
right.
really cool thing, obviously, this car is going to be all-wheel drive, which separates it from a lot of hot hatches, but specifically the Civic Type R, which the new one's
Yeah.
still going to be
Yeah.
front-wheel drive. And the reason this all-wheel drive system is so exciting, because typically I'm not a huge fan of all-wheel drive systems, but this one, they're I'm assuming they're going to use the same technology that they're using in the GR Yaris. So how it works is there's no center diff, but there is a center clutch. Essentially, this is what's also known as a Haldex all-wheel drive
Okay.
system. That the clutches can slip and vary the amount of torque that's sent to the rear axle. And in the GR Yaris, they're able to send up to 70% of the torque to the rear axle in sport
Mm,
mode. So there's three driving modes. There's I think it's just normal, sport, and track, right? And if the Corolla follows the same model as the Yaris, it's going to be 60% front, 40% rear torque split for normal, and then 30% front, 70% rear for sport, which gives it a more like drifty feeling. And then if
right.
you put in track mode for maximum attack, maximum lap times, it's going to be a even 50-50 split.
So that's in itself is really interesting because you can get really different driving characteristics of the different drive platforms within a single car. So
Exactly.
I'll be curious to see how that really translates to real world track driving. But I think that's really awesome. And like it says, it does put a cut above the CTR. And most like whenever you think hot hatch, you're thinking front wheel drive, right? And so this is going to be like that hot hatch kind of like Subaru, WRX STI hatch that we've all always wanted. And
Hmm.
that being said, I think yes, there's a lot of cool things in the specs, but maybe we should scroll through some of the looks here with his
Absolutely.
first impressions.
Yeah, so funny you should bring up the Subaru WRX STI hatch, because if you remember the last hatchback version of that car we got, that went out of production after what, 2014, 13 or 14.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if
yeah.
you
It's
look
been a
at,
while.
I mean, if you look at some of the design elements of this car, right? The fender flares, the big arches, the big vents, the hood venting as well, very reminiscent of that last gen STI hatch. So
Oh
definitely
yeah.
borrowing a lot of design elements, but I think Toyota has really done well in making this distinctively Toyota. So if you look at this shot with the Corolla side by side with the Supra, you can notice the rear fender arch design and how it cuts into the door, very
Right.
reminiscent of the GR Supra.
Yeah, so they kind of are interplaying the themes between the cars as well, which is really cool.
Hmm.
And like from the side profile, I really in this profile, I really think it does look like that hatch, but from the or like looks like that WRX
Yeah,
hatch, but from the rear, it's a totally different car,
yeah,
right?
unmistakable. Like it's definitely a Toyota look. The front end, this
Yeah, the front looks like a like my wife's Toyota Corolla, like with the grill,
with the
you know,
yeah,
so,
but this
with the
looks
grill.
very similar to the GR Yaris with this huge
Sure.
rectangular vent and the intakes, and it's just a mean ass looking car, and
Yeah,
I'm so excited for it.
I agree. Yeah, so if you keep scrolling this picture here, I'm just like, dang, that's WRX hatch. That's the car that I wanted, in 2014. And all the hatches like in 2015, 16, 17, like those years after that, the value of that hatch went up so high
Hmm.
because everyone wanted to buy it. So it's kind of interesting that, Toyota is, kind of maybe satiating those people who wanted that car. Now we have a
Exactly.
modern platform and well, more than modern, like an advanced, performance platform that is like taking the helm of a hot hatch that's all-wheel drive and giving us, what we wanted. And, until I saw the leaks, I didn't know I wanted this car. And now that I
Yeah.
see it, it's like, dang,
I'm
I'm gonna
telling you,
want
this
this
car is
car.
going to sell out real quick. I mean, depending on how many they produce. Let's talk about price for a second. I want to keep this video under 10 minutes, so let's wrap up in the next 60 seconds or so. So the price has not been released yet, but this is the launch edition, right? The pictures that we're looking at.
Hmm.
Same with the Supra, there was a launch edition that was, had a few specs, special colors, interior trim. I predict this car to cost around $40,000, maybe a little bit more at launch. That's
Oh
before
yeah.
markup, obviously, there is for sure going to be markup. But once the base model of this comes out, hopefully soon after the launch edition, I'm really hoping for it to match the Civic Type R right around $38,000.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that's what it's gonna be. Unfortunately, dealer markup is gonna kill it. It's gonna put it in like the 45s. But
Yeah.
that being said, I'm excited to see this car, and we'll have a ZCT after the fact covering it more in depth. But we want to just give our first impressions and
Yeah, so our video cut off for a second there. We just resumed. But yeah, really excited about this car. The final reveal or the official Toyota reveal is in 2 hours. We will do a full ZCT episode on this car, hopefully in the next week or so. But just wanted to share this with you guys, put it out there, share the specs from the leak, and get your guys' impressions. And the most important question, though, should Matt buy one?
I mean, it is compelling. I mean, the only unfortunate thing is like the dealer markup is gonna, like, I still am in this mentality that I refuse to pay dealer markup, but I hope this is not the new normal. But man, with any popular car, unfortunately, given the consumer market, people are going to pay that markup
But
price.
here's the thing, right? So I was able to get my BRZ at a time where all the California dealers, at least, were pretty much asking markup.
Mm-hmm.
I have a contact at the dealership that I bought my Subaru at in Oregon, and it's a joint Subaru and Toyota dealership. So if you were interested, we could
Hey,
definitely hit that guy up and see if
let me know if they have a GR Corolla,
because
and
they
then
don't
we'll
sell
do
any
it.
cars with markup. That's their overall like dealer policy. So if
I
we could get an
see.
allocation, we could potentially make
Might have to
this
do a
happen.
road trip. Might have to do a road
Yeah.
trip. But yeah, just wanted to get out there and give our first quick impressions. Like Ben said, we'll do another ZCT episode more in depth after the fact, after the reveal in a couple hours. But exciting car. Can't wait to see this. This is kind of, haven't been this excited about a car in a while, but it'll probably be the same thing for the CTR, the new CTR.
Yeah.
So, but this is kind of new because nothing has come out like this in a while. I mean, the CTR was an existing car, but this is a new whole game changer. So we'll
Yeah.
go more into depth after that. But I think we're good to go here.
Yeah, we are good to go. So let us know in the comments what you guys think, and please answer the question that I left there at the end. Thanks for
All right.
watching. Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.